The last thing I heard before the car disappeared into the darkness was my son-in-law saying, "You'll be fine, Evelyn. Someone will come." Then he drove away. I stood beside a dead gas station sign, holding one small suitcase, while his taillights vanished down the empty road. The station had been closed for years. Broken windows covered the building, weeds grew through the pavement, and there wasn't another car in sight. My phone showed 1% battery. I called my daughter, Claire. She answered immediately. "Mom, where are you?" I swallowed hard. "Your husband left me at an abandoned gas station." There was silence. Then Claire whispered, "He did what?" I told her about the argument in the car. Daniel had complained that the trip was too long and that taking me to the airport was not his responsibility. I had apologized twice, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. Finally, he had pulled over. "Get out," he had said. I thought he was angry. I never imagined he would actually leave me there. Claire's voice trembled. "Mom, stay exactly where you are. I'm coming." The call ended. I sat on the cracked concrete and stared at the empty road. For 28 years, I had believed my daughter had married a good man. I had defended Daniel when relatives questioned him. I had even helped him start his business when he was struggling. But now, alone in the darkness, I began wondering whether I had made a terrible mistake. 20 minutes later, headlights appeared. A car stopped near the station. I stood up, expecting Claire. But the driver was not my daughter. It was someone I had never seen before. He stepped out, looked directly at me, and said, "Mrs. Bennett, your daughter told me to find you before he does." The stranger introduced himself as Marcus Reed. He said Claire had contacted him through a mutual friend and asked him to make sure I was safe. I wanted to ask 100 questions, but fear stopped me. "Before who does?" I asked. Marcus looked toward the road. "Your son-in-law." My stomach tightened. Daniel had always seemed confident, charming, and helpful. He remembered birthdays, brought flowers, and called me Mom. Yet Marcus spoke as if Daniel had been hiding another life. He drove me to a small motel in the nearest town. Before I entered, he handed me an envelope. "Claire told me not to open this," I said. "She said you should." Inside was a photograph of Daniel standing outside an office building with two men I recognized from his business. Behind them was a large sign bearing the name of his company. Beneath the photograph was a handwritten note from Claire. "Mom, I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner. Please trust Marcus." That was all. I called Claire again. No answer. Then Daniel called. His voice was calm. "Evelyn, where are you?" I froze. "I could ask you the same thing," I replied. He laughed softly. "You misunderstood what happened. I was upset. I thought you'd already found another ride. You left me at a deserted gas station. I knew someone would help you." "Who?" He didn't answer. Instead, he said, "You should come home. Claire is worried." Something about his voice made my skin crawl. After the call, Marcus showed me another document. It was a bank statement connected to an account I had never seen. My name was on it. So was Daniel's. I stared at the page, unable to breathe. Years earlier, I had trusted Daniel with paperwork when Claire and I helped him expand his company. I remembered signing several forms, believing they were business documents. Now I understood why Claire had been so frightened. But I still didn't know the worst part. Marcus turned the page, and at the bottom was Claire's signature. I stared at my daughter's signature. "Claire signed this." I whispered. Marcus nodded. "That's why she's scared." The account had been used to move money from several properties. One of those properties was the small house I had inherited from my late husband. My house. Daniel had convinced me to place the property documents in what he called a temporary family trust. He said it would protect me from taxes and make things easier for Claire someday. I had trusted him. Now Marcus explained what Claire had discovered. Daniel had been planning to sell the house and use the money to cover debts from his failing business. But Claire had refused to help him. When she discovered that my signature had been used on documents I never fully understood, she secretly copied everything and contacted Marcus. She knew he would come after you, Marcus said. I felt anger replacing my fear. Not because Daniel had betrayed me, because my daughter had known something was wrong and had been carrying that burden alone. The next morning, Claire arrived. She ran into the motel room and hugged me so tightly that neither of us spoke for several seconds. I'm sorry, she cried. I should have protected you. You tried, I said. You just waited too long. She nodded through her tears. Then she gave me a folder. Inside were emails, bank records, property documents, and recordings of Daniel planning to sell my house without telling me. One recording made my blood run cold. Daniel was speaking to someone on the phone. Once Evelyn is out of town, everything will be easier. I looked at Claire. He planned the trip? She lowered her eyes. Yes. The airport was never the destination. Daniel had deliberately taken me far from home, abandoned me, and expected fear to make me sign whatever he placed in front of me afterward. But he had underestimated the daughter he thought he controlled. Claire looked at me and said, Mom, I know how we can stop him. For the first time, I smiled. We didn't confront Daniel with anger. We confronted him with proof. Claire had already contacted a lawyer. The documents were reviewed. My property was protected, and the suspicious account was reported. The recordings showed Daniel discussing the sale of my house without my permission. Still, we needed him to reveal himself. So I called him. I'm ready to sign whatever papers you need, I said. Daniel sounded relieved. I knew you'd understand. He came to my house that afternoon, carrying a folder and wearing the same friendly smile I had trusted for years. But he didn't know the lawyer was listening from the next room. Daniel placed the papers in front of me. Just sign here, Evelyn. I looked at him. Before I do, tell me something. Why did you leave me at that gas station? His smile disappeared. I told you. I was angry. No, I said quietly. You wanted me frightened. His face changed. Claire stepped into the room. Daniel stared at her. You betrayed me, he whispered. Claire shook her head. No, I stopped you from betraying my mother. The lawyer entered with the evidence. Daniel's confidence collapsed. He tried to explain everything, but every excuse contradicted the recordings and documents. Within weeks, the property transfer was stopped, the fraudulent activity was investigated, and Daniel's business collapsed under the weight of his own decisions. I never got revenge by destroying him. I simply stopped protecting him from the consequences of what he had done. Months later, Claire and I stood outside my house watching the sunset. I almost lost you, she said. I took her hand. No, I replied. You found me. She smiled through tears. I looked toward the road where Daniel had once driven away and realized something important. Being abandoned had not broken me. It had shown me exactly who was willing to come back for me. And sometimes, the greatest revenge is not making someone suffer. It is surviving their betrayal and never giving them the power to hurt you again.